We've looked back at all the Kings offseason moves to see how this current group of Kings has been put together. Now, time to grade those moves with our offseason report card on this episode of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. We're also on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for almost 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 17 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for the past 30 years. This episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or enter the promo code LockedOnNHL for a free white tech hat with your order. You won't want to take off your Birddogs, we promise. We continue to count down to next season for the LA Kings. We are 39 days away from the rookie tournament in Las Vegas. That starts on September the 15th. We are 46 days away from the Kings preseason opener, September the 22nd in Melbourne, Australia. And we are 65 days away from the Kings opening night of the 2023-24 NHL season, October 11th, the Crypto.com Arena against the Colorado Avalanche. We talked on last Monday's show about all the moves the Kings made this offseason, the trades, the signings, the re-signings. Today, we're going to grade those moves now that it appears the Kings have all the pieces in place for next season. We'll break it up by position. We'll talk about the goaltending and the blue line, and we will start with the forwards. And obviously, I'm going to have my grades. You may have your grades. If you want to share those, you can with our weekly Friday fan feedback show. But our grades are obviously going to be influenced by a number of things. But I think the biggest factor is, did you think the Kings needed to make changes? If so, significant changes or maybe just some tweaks. Now, I won't deny that my feelings have changed a bit after the fact, but if you've watched some past shows, I think it's pretty clear that I'm glad the Kings didn't just run it back with pretty much the exact same group. That said, I didn't really see the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade coming down, and I'll admit at first I wasn't in favor of it, but while the Kings have had two solid seasons and have made the playoffs 2 years in a row, you could argue, the Kings maybe with just some tweaks could have finally gotten over the hump against the Edmonton Oilers the past 2 years. They played the Oilers a little bit tougher this past season. Of course, the first year they made the playoffs against Edmonton, it went 7 games. So maybe just some tweaks are all we needed to get the Kings over the top. But I'm glad the Kings are going for it in a sense. As a fan, I can deal with them coming up short while being aggressive to make things happen rather than be an organization that plays it safe and just hopes for the best. Team President Luc Robitaille has said the Kings are no longer just looking to be a playoff team. They want to compete for a Stanley Cup. Now, it'd be hard to make the case that this team, which has lost in the first round of the playoffs 2 years in a row, for them to just run it back again, that really doesn't seem like a team that's looking to try and win the Stanley Cup. It seems more like a team that's hoping to win the Stanley Cup. Now, just because GM Rob Blake has made some bold moves doesn't guarantee you anything, but he has put himself out there to be judged with a very active offseason. And again, I like the Kings being proactive, and I think that has probably influenced my grades a bit. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the changes the Kings made at the forward position and what grades those moves will get from me. Got to start with the obvious big one, the major trade, one of the biggest trades in the tenure of GM Rob Blake, and that was the deal to acquire center Pierre-Luc Dubois from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for Gabe Vilardi, Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kupari, and there was also a second-round pick going to Winnipeg. We're just focusing, though, on the pieces that have made up the Kings roster for this season. So what do I like about the deal to acquire Pierre-Luc Dubois? Well, the Kings get a 25-year-old center. They lock him up for 8 years. They're getting the prime years of his career. He is a proven 30-goal, 60-point type of player. He's got good size, and we were told he plays with a bit of an edge. So for those of you that felt like the Kings needed to get a little bit bigger and a little bit more physical, it seems like he fits the bill there. His defense is not as good as his offensive side, But the Kings are definitely improved down the middle, all four positions, all four lines at the center position. Philip Deneau with Pierre-Luc Dubois moving in behind Kopitar in that second center position. Philip Deneau's moved down to the third line. That makes that line better. And Blake Lizotte, who saw some time on the third line now, is in that fourth line center position where he can be more effective as an energy guy. Now, what do I not like about the deal? Well, the Kings are stronger up the middle, but they are also weaker on the wings. Yes, they still have Adrian Kempe, Kevin Fiala, Victor Arvidsson. Those are fine wingers. But with Velarde and Iafallo gone, that means that Trevor Moore is going to have a bounce back season. And that means that Arthur Kaliev is going to need to step up. I think if he gets the ice time, Arthur Kaliev can fill the shoes and the production of Gabe Velarde. If Trevor Moore has a bounce back year to what he had 2 years ago, he can definitely fill the skates of Alex Iafallo. But if they don't do that, if Moore has another subpar season, and if Kaliev doesn't get the ice time because Todd McClellan isn't happy with his defensive game, and it's something he demands from his players, especially if you're going to play, in the top three lines, then this deal probably would be more of a lateral move. But those guys will need to step up. If they do, the Kings, again, being much better down the middle, makes the Kings, I believe, a better team. Yes, they're not as deep as they once were. That is a concern. And defensively, they might take a little bit of a step back. But overall, I do think if Trevor Moore and Arthur Kaliev can have solid seasons, that the addition of Pierre-Luc Dubois is still going to be a good one. If not, then there is concerns. And again, if there are injuries, that's a concern as well. So what is my grade for the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade? I'm going to give it a B. Like I said, I am a fan of the Kings being bold, being proactive, looking to make a deal that's impactful. I think this deal does that, or at least has the potential to do that. Despite his possible attitude issues that we've heard about, he has been productive wherever he's been, regardless of what his happiness is on or off the ice. Hopefully, now that he's happy in LA, if that's the case, that can make him perhaps be even better. But like I said, pretty optimistic that Trevor Moore and Arthur Kaliev can come in and fill the shoes, the skates of Gabe Velarde and Alex Iafallo. If that happens, then I think the Kings are going to be very happy with the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. The other significant move as far as the forward group goes was the re-signing of Anze Kopitar, 2 years, $14 million extension that starts next season. What do I like about the deal? Well, Kopitar, even though he's about to turn 36, still a horse, reliable, steady, led the team in scoring for a 15th time this past season. Now, yes, if Kevin Fiala hadn't gotten hurt, then Kopitar would have finished second, but that's still very productive. He's still one of the best two-way forwards in the NHL. Your captain, highly respected. Glad he's locked up for the next 3 seasons. You had to re-sign him, and you wanted to make that price respectable for what he's done in the past, but you also don't want to just give him a blank check because he is a future Hall of Famer. He's still productive. So he's getting paid something that I think is absolutely fair for what he brings to the LA Kings. But after this season, the cap hit does go down from $10 million to $7 million. So again, that helps the Kings out as well going forward. And Anze Kopitar is still being paid a very, very fair and reasonable price. Now, what do I not like about this deal? Honestly, nothing. They aren't overpaying for an old legend who's just hanging on. He is still a key part of this team, and I don't see his production or his importance significantly dropping off over the next couple of years. Now, he may eventually slide down to that number 2 center position, maybe Pierre-Luc Dubois, if he has the season we all hope he has. Maybe in the next couple of years he moves up to that number 1 center spot, but regardless, that's still your top 2 centers are still extremely important. I don't see Kopitar's game dropping significantly. And like I said, he's earning that contract. I think $7 million a year is very fair for what he brings to the table. My grade on the Anze Kopitar re-signing, I'm giving it an A. Now, there were a couple of other minor signings as far as the forward groups go. The Kings did pick up Trevor Lewis, 1-year deal worth $775,000. What do I like about the deal? Well, I am a sucker for nostalgia. I love bringing back one of the old Stanley Cup heroes. He is still a very solid veteran who can play on your fourth line, block shots, chip in a goal or two every now and then. And most importantly, with the Kings looking to make their penalty kill upgrade a priority, he's a guy who can help out on your penalty kill. He's still durable despite being towards the end of his career. In his last 2 seasons, he's played in 162 of a possible 164 games. So he can still get it done. He's in the lineup every night. And again, you're paying him league minimum, where he'll likely end his career where he started it. I think the Trevor Lewis signing gets a B. And the Kings re-signed forward Jared Anderson-Dolan, 1 year, $775,000. He'll battle it out for a fourth line spot. He can chip in a few goals, more of an energy guy. He's also making the league minimum, so you're not certainly overpaying for someone who's going to play on your fourth line. Could also be maybe like the 13th forward to fill in when needed. I'll give the Jared Anderson-Dolan grade A C. So that's my report card on the forwards. So far, so good. We'll check in on the Kings defensive core and see what grades they get for the offseason moves here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. This episode of Locked On LA Kings is brought to you by Birddogs. What are Birddogs? Well, they are shorts that have the underwear built in. And I know you may ask yourself, why would I want that? The answer is because they are incredibly comfortable and they look great. I'm literally wearing my Birddog shorts right now. They just sent me a new pair of navy blue shorts. I love them. I'd stand up and show you, but I don't think that's really necessary. You can take my word for it. I'm an honest guy. And I can honestly tell you that I love these shorts. They are the perfect combination. They look good and they feel good. How often does that really happen with your clothes, right? Usually if you wear something that's really nice, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. And then if you wear something that's really, really comfortable, it kind of doesn't look that good. But no, that's not the case with Birddogs. And once you try them, you'll wonder, why had I never heard of these before? Why had I never tried them before? Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or enter the promo code LockedOnNHL and get your free white tech hat with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOn. Promo code LockedOnNHL for a free white tech hat. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. All right, let's check out the Kings' moves on the blue line. The most significant was the re-signing of defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov. What do I like about it? Well, a lot. I thought Gavrikov fit in very, very well when he joined the Kings last season at the deadline. Pretty much had instant chemistry with Matt Roy on that second pairing. He doesn't provide you much numbers offensively, but I've always been of the mindset that you want your defensemen to defend first and foremost. And if they can chip in offensively as well, then that's just icing on the cake. He's reliable. He makes good decisions. He is a very good defensive player as far as his instincts, knowing when to step up and hold the puck along the blue line, knowing when to back off, make sure there's no odd man rushes. Having a full season of Vladislav Gavrikov, I think, should definitely help the Kings defensively. Maybe it helps to offset a little bit of the loss of Gabe Vilardi and Alex Iafallo, who were very solid offensive defensemen. But a full season of Gavrikov on the blue line makes the Kings a better defensive team all the way around. The deal that he got, 2 years, $5.8 million, not unreasonable. Now we knew that he was going to get some pretty significant interest from other teams, so the Kings maybe had to offer a little bit more to get him to re-sign, but all in all, not a ridiculous contract in any way. The only thing that some people might have a problem with is that it's a little bit maybe of an overpayment, but not much. I don't think it's a big issue. I'm going to give the Vladislav Gavrikov re-signing, a solid B. The Kings did trade away Sean Durzi. They also traded away Sean Walker. I thought both players were replaceable because the Kings also needed to clear up some cap space to make some other moves on the roster. Durzi is young and has some nice offensive upside, but with guys like Brant Clark and Jordan Spence waiting in the wings, the Kings can fill his and Walker's spots, I think, nicely. The return for Durzi, a second-round pick, then it was used in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. In a sense, I guess you could kind of argue the Kings traded Durzi away for nothing really in return. Certainly the cap space is part of the factor, and yes, maybe that pick that they added in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade made that trade a little bit more go through a little bit smoother. But all in all, I'll give the trading of Sean Durzi to Arizona, I'll give that a C grade. The Kings also re-signed defenseman Tobias Bjornfot. He gets a 2-year deal worth $1.55 million. That is league minimum for the next 2 seasons. They also signed free agent defenseman Andreas Englund. He gets a 2-year, $2 million deal, maybe a slight overpayment, in my opinion, for him. Now, these two are apparently going to battle it out to see who's going to take over that Alex Edler spot on the third pairing on the left side. Bjornfoot has more NHL experience and is younger. England is a bit bigger and apparently has a bit more of a physical side to his game. Neither gives you much of anything offensively. One of the few places the Kings are going to have a position battle is apparently on that left side on the third pairing defensively. So that's something to certainly keep an eye on. I don't know that you could go wrong either way necessarily. As long as they both are reliable defensively, you're going to have an offensive defenseman on the other side, on that right side, whether it's Jordan Spence or it's Brandt Clark. So a young pairing on the third side. But I give the re-signing of Tobias Bjornfoot and the signing of Andreas Englund, I give it a grade of a C for both of those players. So no D's or F's so far. Will that continue when we look at the goaltending? That is next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. This episode of Locked On LA Kings brought to you by AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens, all to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. AG1 contains less than 1 gram of sugar, costs you less than $3 a day. And it's just one scoop in a cup of water. You don't have to go through a million different supplements to look out for your health. And to make things easy, AG1 is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. That's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. The Kings are going to have 2 different goalies to start this season than they had at the start of last season. Gone are Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick. In are Cam Talbot and the re-signed Phoenix Copley. Let's start with Copley. He gets re-signed on a 1-year deal worth $1.5 million, a well-deserved raise from the $825,000 that he earned last season when he came in and helped save the Kings' season very unexpectedly. Not sure what he could have gotten on the open market, but I'm sure that familiarity with the Kings and knowing, most importantly, that he would have a chance to be the number 1 goalie on an NHL team certainly made it attractive for him to not test the market and to come back for the Kings. He gets a raise from what he did a year ago, and he's going to have a chance again at the number 1 job. I don't know that he would get probably a raise with another team, but I don't know what other team out there was going to guarantee him a shot at battling for that number 1 position. Certainly that's important for him at this point of his career, a guy who's been pretty much a minor leaguer throughout his time in the NHL. So that's got to be very attractive for him. And again, he knows the coaching staff. He knows the players. He knows his teammates. He knows what he's going to get with the LA Kings. I'm sure that was attractive for him, and he gets the raise. I'm giving that re-signing of Phoenix Copley an A. As for Cam Talbot, he comes in on a prove-it type of deal after a tough season in Ottawa. He gets a 1-year, $1 million deal with a chance to earn an additional $1 million if he reaches certain games played incentives. He is 2 years removed from a very solid season in Minnesota. Kings are obviously hoping to see that Cam Talbot and playing in front of a very defensive-minded team that has been a playoff team the last 2 years. I'm fairly confident that Cam Talbot can return to the form that he had 2 years ago rather than the season he had last year. I'm giving the signing of Cam Talbot a B. The Kings also brought in David Rittich. He gets a 1-year deal worth $875,000. He does have some NHL experience, 79 games over parts of 7 seasons in the NHL, primarily as a number 2 goalie. He's a nice insurance policy in case something happens. If there's an injury to either Cam Talbot or Phoenix Copley, he could come in and fill in nicely for a short amount of time. I don't know that you'd want to have him as your backup goalie for an entire season necessarily, but hopefully that won't be the case. Also, he could be, I think, a pretty decent mentor to young goaltender Eric Portillo down in the AHL with the Ontario Reign, which is likely where he's going to be to start the season. I think the signing of David Rittich as a solid third goalie with NHL experience, I'll give that a C. As for the grade that for the trade that saw Cal Peterson shipped off to Philadelphia in a 3-team deal along with Sean Walker. That move was essential. The Kings and GM Rob Blake pretty much stepped in it when they signed the unproven Cal Peterson to a 3-year deal worth $15 million. They had to get out from under that contract, and they did, albeit at a price which was forward prospect defenseman Helga Granz, and also a second-round pick. Also had to retain part of Ivan Provorov's salary as well. Still, again, that was a move that had to be made. I'm giving the grade of trading Cal Peterson and getting that contract off the books a solid B. For the Kings to go from Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick to start last season as one of the highest paid tandems in the entire NHL, both were making a combined over $10 million. Now you're paying your 2 goalies just over $2 million. That is a much, much better situation. And take into account that I believe that the Kings goaltending situation right now is better than it was a year ago at this time. And you're saving $8 million, obviously, at that position. That $10 million plus was way too much to pay for those 2 goalies. No disrespect intended for Jonathan Quick and all the amazing things he's done, but just taking it as where they were in their careers at that point, that was way, way, way too much money. Especially you got $5 million for a Cal Peterson who'd never proven he was an NHL caliber goalie. There are lots of goalies out there you could get for a lot cheaper. So great to get those 2 goalies off the books, to be honest with you, and to bring in a pair of goalies now that are just making over $2 million. Much, much better asset management for the Kings, better job of the salary cap, and being able to go out and get a guy like a Pierre-Luc Dubois and re-sign a guy like a Vladislav Gavrikov. So to recap the moves the Kings made this offseason, I give the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade a B. I think the Kopitar re-signing is an A. I think the signing of Trevor Lewis is a B. Jared Anderson-Dolan re-signing a C. As for the defense, Vladislav Gavrikov, I gave an A. Sean Durzi trade a C. I think re-signing Tobias Bjornfot and Andreas Englund, give him a C. I think the Phoenix Copley re-signing was an A. Cam Talbot, I give that a B. David Rittich a C. And again, the Cal Peterson trade, I gave that a B. So everything's passing as far as what I can tell. Now, maybe you feel differently. And if you do, you can give me your grades if you want. We have a weekly fan feedback show every Friday. If you have any major complaints or major differences with anything that I have graded, if you want to give a different grade, if you want to give a better grade, certainly you can, although I'm guessing that that's not going to be the case because people like to give their differing opinions, but that's what this is about. That's what our fan feedback shows are about. It's about what you think and your voice as a fan, but let me know why. Don't just give me your A, B, C, D or whatever. Explain to me why you feel differently about one of my grades. And if you want, you can tell me what your grade is on some of these offseason moves for the LA Kings. The email address, if you want to send an email, is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Coming up on Wednesday's show, we're going to have a special guest, as we always do with the Wednesday shows. At least that's what we try to do. Friday, of course, is the fan feedback show. You can give your voice to what I talked about on this show coming up on Friday, but get those emails in as soon as you can, because it's always good to have it nice and organized by the time that Friday show rolls around. So I hope you will join us for both of our episodes coming up on Wednesday and Friday. I would love for you to stay connected with this show by following us on Twitter and Instagram. Both of those places are at Locked On LA Kings. All right. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eddie Garcia. Appreciate you listening and watching and supporting Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Hope you have a great day. We will talk to you on Wednesday. And as always, go Kings, go.